I saw some interesting information put out by Sarah Game, who is a One Nation MP up in the it's not really up, it's on the same floor, but in the upper house in State Parliament, and thought we should have her on for a chat. She is here at the 5AA booth, part of the police stand in the Jubilee Pavilion with me now. Sarah, good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for coming in. A couple of things. You're running, firstly, a International Men's Day, November 19. It's a Sunday, and you've got a luncheon going at the Norwood Football Club.
I am so excited to be hosting this International Men's Day event. It's my understanding that it is the only celebration of International Men's Day in South Australia this year.
Really?
And in fact, the only event celebrating International Men's Day in a number of years. So I'm really excited. November 19th, we're having it at the Norwood Football Club from 12 till 2:30.
And it's a Sunday as well, so
That's
it's
right.
a weekend. Okay. You've got some guest speakers, some great names here. People will know all of them.
That's right. This came together. I've been really blown away by how positive and supportive everyone's been. I literally just woke up in the middle of the night a few months ago. I think we'd been having a chat a little earlier about my desire to have an office for men and a minister for men.
Yes.
And you talked to me about how realistic that was, and I agree that is a little way off from happening. But I just really wanted to do something, and I realised I could just organise this International Men's Day celebration myself. And so I woke up and I called the CEO of the Norwood Football Club. He agreed immediately that I could host the event there. I got straight on the phone to Chris McDermott, obviously AFL legend, but for me, more importantly, he's the founder and board chairman of the Little Heroes Foundation, a really important charity to support seriously ill children with unmet needs and their families. He agreed immediately. Then we got Professor Gary Whittet, who is from the University of Adelaide, and I believe the government consults him on men's health and men's mental health issues. He agreed as well immediately. And we're really lucky also to have Jim Wally AO. He's a former Royal Australian Air Force fighter pilot. He's the co-founder of Nova Group, an enormously successful company providing support for national defence and border control. And importantly, he's a father and stepfather to 5 children. Plus, we've got Will Frogley, CEO of Master Builders, to come and talk about issues that they're facing in their industry.
Why is this so important to you? Because no one really talks up men's needs. No one talks up International Men's Day. It's an annual thing. It's always been an annual day on the UN calendar or UNESCO or whoever runs it. But no one really promotes that. Why is that?
Well, I think it's really interesting, actually, to see that nobody promotes it, and I'm really hoping to get people to start talking and thinking about it. Why it's me? I mean, I feel, look, when I got this position, I just wanted to make the absolute most of the position, and it takes a little while to figure out where are you needed, and where are the gaps, and where do you need to advocate. And I realised quite quickly when I just started talking a little bit about men's mental health and men's issue, there was enormous interest in that area. And so I thought, okay, this is an area where there's a gap, where there's not enough advocacy, certainly politically, and I'm going to take that position and try and, make a difference there. And I've found men to be extremely grateful for any advocacy in this area at all. So I think we've spoken previously about men's issues. Men commit 6 out of 8 suicides. Yeah. Men are more likely to have drug addictions, more likely to die on the road. They account for something over 97%, I think, of workplace deaths. Men actually live for a shorter period of time than women, and they have less years of healthy, good quality life. So it's strange to me that we're not advocating for men.
Yeah. And ultimately, then, if that better quality life existed, that impacts on our hospitals in terms of, they're freer of people being in the beds, and that's a good thing.
That's a good thing. And I just want to point out as well that I have found women to be very excited about the advocacy that I've had for men as well, because women love their husbands, women love their children, and their sons and their family members, and they have written to me as well to say thank you so much, because they see that the men around them are suffering.
Yeah. Okay. International Men's Day, the luncheon. Now, how can people get involved with that? Is there a website or a booking? Go to your office? What do they do?
Exactly. They can go to trybooking.com, and they can also, I've pinned it to all of my social media pages. So if they look up Sarah Game MLC, they should be able to see the link there.
Yep.
We have done very well so far. We've got at least 100 people coming, and the capacity at the moment is for 140 unless we rearrange the table. So it looks to be an amazing event, and I would suggest that anyone keen on coming should book soon.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Good to know. Now, I wanted to ask you, I saw a tweet you put out only recently talking about the Patient Assistance Transport Scheme, PATS, for regional people. And you've been asking the government to review this because it hasn't been changed for well over a decade. The scheme, it's affecting people out in the regions who need to travel to Adelaide for medical assistance and care.
That's right. It's a patient-assisted transport scheme, and it's really to help people in rural communities who need to travel more than 100 kilometres in each way to receive medical specialist treatment. And my understanding is there's been no real significant change in at least 15, maybe even 20 years. There has been an improvement in the fuel subsidy, but the real issue is that as a state, we provide significantly lower subsidies for accommodation than any other state. So, for example, if you're in South Australia and you need to travel to Adelaide as a single person, the subsidy is about $40 per night of accommodation. In other states, you'll get over $100 per night for accommodation. And it was raised with me by the Cancer Council South Australia that this is actually putting people off from rural communities for seeking the treatment that they need and might be contributing to excess cancer deaths in our rural communities.
Okay, so that's important. The government, what's been the response? The Health Minister is, I imagine, who you're addressing this with. Well,
I first raised this last year that I wanted a complete review of the patient-assisted transport scheme, and I was informed at that time that there was no review coming. However, the government then did announce a doubling of the fuel subsidy. So I think they are open to change. I've moved this motion in the House of Parliament recently, and I'm actually bringing it to a vote in the next Parliament week. So I'll be able to let you know how that goes.
Absolutely. Look forward to hearing more on that. That sounds very important for people in the regions who are battling. You know, the health concerns are enough to try and deal with, let alone then transport and accommodation and everything else. Hey, just while you're here, I want to ask you about the university mergers. There was a rally. We spoke with Professor Jeff Hanman yesterday, who addressed the rally on the steps of Parliament. There's been a committee hearing in the merger, and I don't imagine a lot of South Australians will lose a lot of sleep as to whether the merger goes ahead or whether it doesn't. But it's a big issue from an economic point of view. The bigger the uni, the more students come in, the more money gets pumped into the economy, all of that. But your thoughts on the merger? Is it a good thing, a bad thing? What are your concerns? What's happening?
Well, I would say that a lot of people are very concerned about the merger, and I think one thing that stands out to me is I think we've had very poor communication about the merger, and that's one of the reasons we're getting such negative feedback on it. I'm obviously part of the joint committee looking at the establishment of the University of Adelaide from the merger of the current Adelaide University and the University of South Australia. For me, I've had a lot of different submissions so far. One of the most useful was the chair of the Productivity Commission, and I understood clearly from him that we really do need to be looking in this state at university reform if we're going to improve our economy. The state is underperforming and has been for decades with its productivity and with its relative wages, and universities have an opportunity here to be more entrepreneurial, to attract greater talent, to retain greater talent, and to stimulate growth and economic growth. I guess the question then comes, does that reform need to happen with a merged university?
Right.
And I think for that, we need more information. There's some very key information that's lacking for me here. In the stated budget for the merger, $500 to $650 million, that includes virtually no infrastructure costs. And I think we need to be clear with the South Australian people about where that money is going to come from for any future infrastructure costs, who's going to be liable for that, and whether those infrastructure costs would be greater than what they would ordinarily be if those universities stayed separate. Secondly, I think when we're looking at the benefits that have been touted around with a merged university, an extra $500 million into the economy, another 1,200 jobs, 12,000 more domestic students, those figures are 2034 figures with investment from the government compared to current 2022 figures with no investment to the government. And for me, we need to see clear comparison to explain to the South Australian people, this is the outcome if we keep the status quo. Yeah. This is the outcome if we were to invest in separate institutions. And this is the outcome from investing in a merged institution. And so whilst we understand there's going to be cultural challenges and possibly some staff movement, it's the right thing to do because of that benefit. I haven't seen that clearly explained yet.
All right, so more information needed. Sarah, really appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to come down and have a chat about those issues. Again, International Men's Day Luncheon at Norwood Oval on November 19. It's a Sunday, so you can get involved in that. Just look up Sarah's website or social media and you'll certainly find her. Get in touch with Norwood Oval. Sarah, thank you. While you're here, what, fast rides, a Dagwood dog, you're going to do any of that?
I'm straight back to work after this, but thank you so much for having me.
Thank you so much. Sarah Game, One Nation MP in the Upper House here in South Australia. Back